So this presentation will be about applying A3 thinking and PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, in an agile context. It all started when I was assigned to a Scrum team that had just done a major release. The product manager on the client side had one burning question for me. Why did we have to spend twice the expected budget?
What did you do?
I did an A3, a post-mortem A3. Here you see the A3, the post-mortem A3 we wrote, at least the left-hand side of it. In Lean, a problem is a gap between an expectation, a standard if you want, and the actual performance. You can see with the double line the plan from the client point of view. The reality, which you can see with the little bars, is that the project took 9 sprints to complete. This gap between 4 and 9 was the problem we had to explain. What we did is a Pareto analysis. So we analyzed category by category how this budget overrun happened. What we found out is that about half of the overspending was due to the integration of a third-party component. Among all the factors we considered, there was one we were able to back up with hard data. That is that this component, this ActiveX we had to integrate inside the website, was very complex. Or to be more precise, its API was very wide. There were many methods, many functions to be called in a very precise order, otherwise it wouldn't work. And that I could demonstrate by doing a very simple comparison. I counted the number of JavaScript lines of code we had to write to integrate this component inside our website with some open source code bases at that time, written in the same language, that is JavaScript. And we found out that the number of lines of code we had written was much larger than big projects like jQuery at that time. 2 months later, the same customer initiated a new project with us, same team, and they had already planned to use the very same ActiveX, the very same third-party component in another website. Using the post-mortem A3, the project manager on the client side was able to convince the stakeholders to stay clear of this cursed component. And he was able to do that. And a different decision was made. And the next project worked much better. So to make sure that this theory we had shown that API width was the main factor that would delay integration, we did a little bit of nemawashi. And we talked with other teams, and we compared experiences in third-party component integration. And we found out that if you take the third line, integrating a very narrow API, in fact, was completely out of schedule. But if you look at the fourth line, you will see the integration of a famous component called jQuery with a famously large API. But in this case, same company, same kind of developers, same technology, and so on. Schedule was kept. As the estimates were accurate. So the key factor was not API width. What you can see, looking at the second column and the fourth column, is a strong correlation between the quality of support for this component and our ability to respect our schedule. So next, our client gave us a new challenge, something this time not related to production issues, but to really the development activity itself, which was develop faster!
So the issue is to develop faster. By faster, we mean that we want a shorter delivery time. And that our client also want more features in the same amount of time. So the question is, where do we spend time when we develop? In each daily Scrum meeting, I write every activity of every developer of the team, and I map the result with the steps. And before doing this, we have a belief that we spend a lot of time doing big refactorings. By big, I mean refactorings of more than 2 days. But in fact, it takes us less than 3% of our time. So where do we spend time? We spend time in programming, 40% of our time. So we try to zoom in the programming activity. So not 1 time per day, but now I have to see what a developer is doing, what times per minute. Again, we add some belief. The first belief that is very common in all extreme programming teams is the belief that we spend between 1/3 and half of our programming time writing automated tests. And it's only 20%. The two main activities are when we are writing new code, we spend time in skills acquisition. By skills acquisition, I mean understanding new technology, such as when we learn jQuery. But the main part of our time is when we try to understand the legacy code. And so a question is, what is the key factor to understand legacy code? And since then, we noticed that some developers are trying to spend less time to understand some of the part of the legacy system. And a key factor is that they have access to someone who knows the code.
And I would say we are describing the role of like a mountain guide. So someone who already knows the trail, who already knows where are the traps, where is the difficult ground. So with that person, you can go faster in this virtual Gemba, which is the code. How do you manage access, easy access, for your developers to this living knowledge about your code bases? Then we have other news about the DevOps frontline and how you can avoid wasting thousands of euros like we did.
In July, we were almost at 100% of requests below this 1 second. And in August, it fell to 80%. We asked an expert, and at this time, we spent 7 weeks of the development team and our program director, and the expert was able to solve our issue in 1 single week. The first thing that was very important for him was to have production data. By production data, I mean a dump of the production database. Another thing that was very different between him and us, that he don't wanted to write end-to-end bench. No, he wanted only micro bench, the smallest possible bench. He write only a small Java main. And doing this, he was able to check each of his hypotheses very quickly, and he solved the problem.
In Lean, we try to have a more precise perception of what makes up the skill set of the expert. One part of it is really expertise, and it really takes talent, dedication, years of experience to build. But another part can be reproduced and can be transferred. So here, we can test it. Let's say that we can imitate what the expert does, that you don't have necessarily to be the expert to use the expert's method. 6 months later, the production environment is burning again. So, what did you do?
This time, we have a worsening in response time of a back office web application. Before the production release, on Monday, it takes 1 second to answer to a simple query. On the next day, for the same query, it takes 3 minutes. I write a very small man with only this SQL query, this new SQL query, and it reproduces the issue. It's a very small change, 1 word of change, between a SQL join and a SQL left join. And it makes a difference between milliseconds and 3 minutes. So a very simple solution is to do the join in Java. And the most important thing is that writing a small Java main works to reproduce the issue. We haven't to write another end-to-end bench. And this is the most striking part.
Let's summarize all this. So the first benefit you will get is sure to please your customers and managers, because an agile team using A3 and PDCA will provide proven data to data-starved, information-starved management and customers. A second benefit is that inside a team, in an agile team, although you may be doing retrospectives, project or iteration, although you may be talking a lot about how you do the work, what can be improved, there can be some strong beliefs about how things are working in this project, in this team. And some of them can be dead wrong. But since everybody believes them, they are just assumptions we work within. So with PDCA and A3, it's painful, but you have a structured approach to discover that, well, what you believe to be true is not. When we talk about respect for people in Lean, we talk about believing in this incredible potential each one of us has. With PDCA and with A3, Philippe has shown you how he's becoming an expert, how he's going to be tomorrow's super developer. Today, the results are not so impressive. But what I want to highlight, he's very modest. What I want to highlight is that he has found how he's going to be a better developer every day. So just imagine where Philippe will be in 10 years.